Com. Hi, I'm Mag, and it's so good to be keeping you company on a Thursday afternoon. I know that it's not my usual timing, and this whole MCO kind of messed up the timing as well. It used to be 11 to 2, and then we moved on to a 4 o'clock session for tea time with Mag, and then now it's 12 to 3, but nevertheless, I'm still going to be here keeping you company on AFO Radio, okay? So, this afternoon, I have a very special guest. I have had many shows with him. He's got really good insights, and I love to annoy the hell out of this man as well. We're going to be talking about adapting to the new normal, embracing the new normal in this whole COVID season. All right. How do we do it in the corporate world? How do we bounce back? Is there hope in the new world or the new normal? So let me bring on my guest this afternoon, the wonderful and very handsome John Kam, the CEO of The Jungle People.
Hi guys. Hi Meg. Good to see you again.
Hello. It's so good to see you and have you back on air. It's
Likewise.
nice.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
How have you been keeping?
I've been pretty good actually. So surprisingly, well, there are two perspectives, right? From a business perspective, it's been a horrible year. 2020 is a write-off for the year. But from a personal perspective, the whole entire lockdown thing has allowed me to do a lot of things in my personal life that I probably would not have had the chance to do otherwise. So, yeah,
Like
so
spending time with your family?
yeah. I've been spending a lot of time with my family, and that's been really cool. I've got a baby at home, and you literally watch her grow from a 4 month, 5 month to 9 month, 10th month. So I would not have had the chance otherwise if I was working as usual. So it's been a mixed bag, but a lot more blessings than disasters, I suppose.
Definitely. Now, John, you've always been a very positive one. You always look at the bright side of things. But I'm glad that you had this time to spend with your family. Now you've got a toddler and a 4 month old. 4 month old, right?
Not that toddling anymore.
Not that toddling anymore.
He's going to be 5 next year. He just learned how to ride a bicycle, so he's doing good, and a toddler.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So nice. I love that. Congratulations, by the way. Okay, so what have you been doing for the past couple of months while we were stuck at home, or rather, safe at home?
What have I been doing? Wow. I suspect I've been doing pretty much what everybody else has been doing, staying at home, trying to keep yourselves entertained, trying to keep yourselves relevant. So from a personal perspective, like I said, spending a lot of time with the family, with the kids, because you don't really have a choice, right? But then also on the other side of things with business, this has been a really topsy-turvy time. Obviously, business has been affected. Like everybody else, 90% of the businesses out there have been hit really, really badly by the virus, and then subsequently by the financial fallout of the lockdown and the virus, etc. Right? So it's a really bad year for traditional business, but at the same time, because of this unique situation, it's also provided a lot of opportunities for those who are quick enough and fast enough to grab those opportunities. So we've been working on tons of projects that are really exciting, and we are hoping will change the landscape of the industry that we're in.
Now, you've never been traditional the way you run your business. You always look at different ways, new ways, and you experiment with things as well. And that's what I love about how you do things, and you're always very open-minded. You've got different perspective on things. So do you think, anything is going to pick up in the next 6 months, John?
Anything is going to pick up in the next 6 months, did you say?
Yeah. Anything's going to turn out great in the next 6 months. Or has 2020 just gone?
I think the world is expecting a bumper crop of babies probably coming and starting in the next 6 months onwards. So that's going to pick up. So hospitals, get ready. Midwives, get ready. But on a serious note, I think it's going to pick up. Actually, your guess is good as mine. And right now, if you just sort of surf the net for the outlook for the next 6 months, you get pretty much every perspective under the sun, right? Everybody's saying everything, and it ranges from this end to the other end, and there are just so many opinions. The truth is, nobody really knows. When we talk about the new normal, when we talk about the changing landscape, we haven't even arrived at the new normal. So when everybody says you got to adjust to the new normal, you can't really adjust to the new normal because the new normal is still changing. So it's not something that we have arrived at yet.
Okay.
And I know it feels to a certain extent that we may have arrived at the new normal because we're not so much in a lockdown era, especially in Malaysia anymore.
That's right.
We're 80% back to life. You know, you can start little gatherings here and there. You can go to the gym and so on and so forth. So it feels as though that we're arriving at a new normal. I don't think we have. I think what we have is a lull, or put it differently. I think the new normal is just us getting used to the fact that things are going to continuously change. That things are just going to be in a constant state of flux. I found it really interesting because the last 20 years that I've been doing training, this is our 20th year anniversary, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We had everything planned out, big year, celebrations, invite friends, invite clients, gala dinner, bang, COVID, lockdown. Stay home, not doing anything. So, and the speed at which it happened was incredible. So anyway, I was saying in the last 20 years, we've been saying that that every day that you're alive is change at the fastest rate that mankind has ever gone through. And you could say that every day, and that statement would be true, that today the world is changing at a faster rate than it has ever changed in the history of mankind. We've been doing that for 20 years, and it's accelerating, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened in the last 3 months, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months now? My goodness, where has time gone, right? In the last 6 months, I think of it as, you know, you're in Star Trek, and
Yep.
you're sort of going along, and your spaceship is going faster and faster and faster, and then suddenly, you know, that moment where you're in hyperspace and your spaceship turns into streaks of light.
Yes.
That's what happened, right? Except that nobody told us we were going to go into hyperspace. We went going really fast, we're going really fast, we suddenly disappeared, and then we appear on the other side, and we go like, what happened? And that was the last 6 months. We went into hyperspace, and now we have arrived potentially before another hyperspace. We don't know what's going to happen.
That's true.
And therefore, maybe taking a little bit of a breather. So I think when people talk about a new normal, the new normal is us getting used to the fact that things are continuously going to change, and it's never going to stop, and it's going to get faster and faster and faster. So it's not about learning how to do things differently, it's learning how to cope with things that are changing differently. So a new skill set needs to happen.
Now, looking back in time and looking back at a time where my teachers told us, what do you think 2020 would look like? I knew that 2020 would be a fast-paced time, time spent, it would be very fast-paced. Everything would be moving fast. We'd be having flying cars, but I did not expect that Star Trek thing to come through at all, or Star Wars thing to come through, where time just went and we don't know what happened to us, that kind of thing.
I know, right? It was like wawasan 2020, and I saw a meme that day, oh, rupa-rupanya 2020 duduk dekat rumah, you know what I mean? Yeah, where are my flying cars? We've got flying viruses.
Yes, we do. Airborne now.
Yeah, that's what I read today. It's going airborne. So we've got flying viruses, no flying cars. But maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing. So on one side, it's accelerating digitalization, right? Things are
That's
going
right.
fast. You and we're on Facebook Live right now. Previously, we were on internet radio, and it went really, really fast. So there are some things that are changing really, really fast, but there are also a lot of things and that has sort of gotten us back in touch with what we needed to get in touch with. And I'll give you an example.
The simple things in life.
For most of us, in the last couple of months, we probably called our parents more in the last 6 months than we have in the last 10 years.
Definitely.
And it took a virus to do that. we've spent more time with our kids than we have in the last 10 years. We've spent more time with our spouse, and we have better conversations. So there are a lot of silver linings
That's right.
to what we went through.
So this should be part of the new normal as well, I assume. Or,
Well,
are we going to adapt to a different type of new normal? I mean, appreciating the little things in life, like your spouse or your family, or
okay, so I think those things should never go away. It should never have gone away. It shouldn't go away in the future. Those pictures that came out during the MCO where they said Mother Nature is resetting and
Yep.
the rivers were getting clearer and so on. My worry is that when industry goes back full swing, you notice that in the last 1 month there's been no more reports about rivers getting clearer and air getting cleaner. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think this is an opportunity that's been given to a lot of us to sort of take a step back and say, hey, some of the habits that we've got maybe not as healthy as they should be.
Mhm.
And maybe it's time to reassess what we think is important in life.
That's right.
So that's the positive side of things, right? A negative side of things is that we as a race, we haven't had a very good track record. But we can
Indeed.
always
But of course, there's always a positive side of things. So let's just keep our fingers crossed for,
let keep our fingers
better
crossed.
things ahead. Okay, so when we come back after the break, I want to talk about, how do we pick up the pieces now that we're slowly, going back to normal? Or like John says, the new normal is actually adapting to change because we haven't really arrived at a so-called new normal. Right now, it's just adapting to everything that's changing day in, day out, because nothing is similar. So we'll discuss that when we get back next on AFO Radio.
Let's get it on. We got some bread made for you. The music. AFO. 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 Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go. Let's get it on. We got some bread made for you. The music. AFO. 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 Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. We got some bread made for you. The music. AFO. 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 Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go.
More Than a Woman right here on AFORadio.com. Hi, good afternoon. I am Mag. And this afternoon on AFO Live, we're talking to John Kam, the CEO of the Jungle People. And we're talking about embracing the new normal. So just before the break, John said that, the new normal is actually adapting to the current changes that we have to endure every day. Every day there's something new that we learn or something new that we do. So looking at our chat box this afternoon, we've got Wong Puyi who says, we need to create a better normal. The old normal was too poor quality to be renewed. And then I've got Ng Ying Hui who says, back to basics, be appreciative, supposed to be the basic natural behavior that everyone possesses. I think they've got good points there. So thank you so much for your comments. And if you're watching, please drop your comments at the comment section below and we'll get to them if you have any questions for John. John Zempero, and any question you ask him, he can answer. Correct?
Hey.
I'm putting you out there, John, You're the pro after all.
I love the fact that Puyi says we need to create a better normal. And I think as a race, we now have more tools than ever before to be able to create things and to be able to change and influence things. The question is, what have we been using those tools for, and how are we, changing the world around us? And as far as the environment is concerned, I don't think we've been doing a great job. But like I said, the last couple of months, there's been a huge disparity. So on one side, there has been a surge in racism. You see all those YouTube
Black Lives Movement, yes.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter. You see people cursing the Chinese in certain countries and so on and so forth, right? You got that end of the spectrum. And then you got the other end of the spectrum where people are getting treated regardless of race, religion, creed, or culture. There's been a huge surge of appreciation for frontliners, regardless of who they are. We're starting to appreciate the garbage collectors, and we're starting to appreciate the cleaners and so on. And there was one tweet that I read that was really cool. It says, "Who do you think is essential right now? Your garbage collector or the highly paid CEO?" And I thought that sort of helped things help us put things in perspective. So yes, I totally agree. We need to create a better normal. The way we do business should be all about creating a better normal. We don't have to wait until a crisis happens. So we don't have to wait until we are so-called successful before we start creating a new normal.
That's right. I'm just in a way, you have a really good point. Despite everything that's been happening, there's also been other cases that have tried to get the attention as well, in a way, but things are not very pleasant to a certain extent. So we need a nicer new normal, a more pleasant, a more friendly one, and something that's filled with a lot more love, isn't it? I would think, COVID kind of taught us that, love, gratitude, appreciation.
Yeah. The world is full of people, right? And unfortunately, the nastier people are usually the louder ones, and they are the ones who get hurt more. So maybe it's time for the rest of us who are trying to fight for a better world, a nicer world, a kinder world, to speak up a little bit more. There was also once a phrase that I read that I liked. Is it for evil to prosper, all it needs is for good people to do nothing. So
wow,
step up and do something, right? Wherever you are, and every little bit counts. Doesn't matter what you're doing, every little bit counts.
Definitely. And I like that. I think we should remember that if we don't do nothing, then nothing will be done at the end of the day. Yeah. All right. So, John, there's a question for you on our chat box. Comes from Ng Yin Hui. He or she says, "Hi, John. How do you and your team cope with the new normal? How have you been coping with the new normal?"
How have we been coping with the new normal? We sit down in the room every day and we cry our guts out. No.
And that's the last thing you're going to be doing, John.
So it's been interesting. Like I said, the opportunity here is that this is something that has never happened in the history of anybody's lives, right? We've never had a situation where the world has shut down to this extent before, not even the world wars, right?
Yeah.
So it's been really, really interesting, and it's been really exciting. So on one side, traditional business has been hit so badly, it's not even funny.
Right.
And I think I'm not the only one who is experiencing that. I think a lot of organizations, large or small, we're all experiencing that from a business perspective.
Mhm.
However, I said this is also an opportunity because it's never happened before in the history of mankind.
Mhm.
And therefore, if you're a business person, and if you look at it that way, then the question is, what opportunities does this situation or does this crisis,
Lead
afford?
to.
And that's what we've been focusing on. So on one side, we've been trying to make sure that our existing business can survive.
Yeah.
But by and large, a lot of our focus and a lot of our efforts in the last couple of months have been on projects that would help us thrive. So there are two things that you've got to remember during times like this. One is survive. And most people don't have a problem with that. They understand that very well. They try to survive, right? But here's the thing about survival. If you're constantly in survival mode, ultimately you will stop surviving. You cannot be in survival mode forever.
Forever.
Think
Yep.
about all those shows that you see on TV, those Bear Grylls, right?
Reality TV shows. Yeah.
Eat a raw camel's testicles or whatever.
Ew.
Yeah, he did it.
You couldn't have chosen anything better, right?
Sorry. That's the survival strategies that they employ is meant to keep them alive for a couple of days. It's meant to
Correct.
help them survive a certain situation. Business is the same. There are certain things that you can do, and there are certain things that you must do to help you survive the situation, right?
Mhm.
But you can't go in survival mode forever. There must be plans as you survive. There must be plans to help you thrive in the future. So in the jungle people, we call this the. Are you ready for this? Everybody repeat after me. It goes 10, 10, 10. We call it our 10, 10, 10 strategy. Why is it called 10, 10, 10? Is because you've got 10 days, 10
Okay.
weeks, 10 months. Okay.
Okay.
And whatever survival strategies that you have in place should be to help you survive in the next 10 days.
Okay.
Keep you alive, feed you, all the basic necessities that you need in the next 10 days. And this is relevant for individuals as well as for businesses, by the way.
Okay.
But 10 weeks, you can't keep doing, or you can't only do what you did for the 10 days for the next 10 weeks, because
Correct.
ultimately, to take the example that I took just now, you can't survive on caterpillars for 10 weeks. You could survive it maybe on 10 days. But
Yeah.
if all you're doing is going around scavenging for caterpillars, even caterpillars will run out. So you need growth strategies for the next 10 weeks. And after you grow for the next 10 weeks, the question is 10 months is going to roll around. What's going to happen in those 10 months? Have you got the thrive strategies or the prosperity strategies for the next 10 months? So the trick to doing well is to have all three of these strategies being implemented from the get-go. Not one after another. It not survive for 10 days and then think about growing, and then after you finish growing, then think about thriving or prospering. It needs to happen concurrently. You need to have the plans for surviving, for growing, and for thriving, and you need to be working on them from the get-go. So that's what we've been doing, right? And come back to me in another 10 months' time, and we'll see whether our thrive strategies have successfully been implemented. But that's what
10-10 strategy lah.
busy with. So team has been busy surviving, but that's been the least of our worries, to be honest. We're more focused on the growth and the thrive strategies, and that's been really exciting.
Okay, very nice. I like that. But here's the thing. What if people don't know that they just can't continue surviving? That they need to have a plan after surviving. You need to plan to grow, plan to thrive. What then? What happens then?
Well, here's the thing, right? I don't think anybody doesn't know that they need to do something.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably don't know what to do, but we all know we need to do something.
Right.
And we're sort of waiting around for the inspiration to hit for us to be able to do something. One day I don't know, bolt of lightning is going to come from the sky, strike me, and then I'm going to be inspired to do something. But I've seen so many examples in the last 6 months of people who have been inspired to do stuff, and it's been really cool. I've been buying my fruits from a vendor, and I had a chat with him when he delivered fruits over to my house, and I said, "How's business?" And his response was, "It's been wonderful. It's been great. Wow, it's been amazing." And I'm like, "Wow, what a change!" I'm like, "What happened?" He said, "We went online." And this was an old uncle, right? "We went online, I tell you what, wow, business so good." And that was so refreshing. And that was an example of a person who was inspired to do something. So very quickly, just to share with the people out there, that inspiration doesn't come from out of the blue. There are different sources of inspiration. And I'm not talking about inspiration in terms of something that happens to you and makes you feel, moved to do something. A lot of times inspiration comes from within, and there are acts that can help you inspire yourself. So the first act to inspire yourself is the act of deciding. Deciding on doing something. So when you decide, yes, I will do something, you sort of empower yourself to move away from that whole poor me, why did this happen to me? And everybody goes through
self-pity. Yeah.
Everybody goes through that. The first 2 weeks, the first 1 week when we were under lockdown, even I went through like, man, why did this have to happen on our 20th year anniversary? Why, and so on and so forth. There was a lot of self-pity. And by the way, it was, the first quarter was one of the best quarters that we've ever had in our business. It was setting up to be a really, really good year.
Yep.
And then boom, everything came crashing down. So self-pity, that's understandable, but you got to get rid of that self-pity as quickly as possible and decide on doing something. It doesn't matter what you decide, but you got to decide to do something. And when the act of deciding tells yourself that let's go, let's do something, so that's pretty inspirational, but it doesn't last. So the next stage of inspiration comes from planning. So once you've decided, and the question is, what's the plan? What's the plan? And that keeps the inspiration flowing, right? So I'm gonna continue selling my fruits. I'm gonna go online. Okay, what's the plan? Are you using Facebook? Are you using Twitter? Who's gonna be in charge of that? How are you gonna accept the orders? What's the plan? And when you have the plan, that is also another element of inspiration. So because you're telling yourself that I've got a plan, I'm gonna move. And the trick is now, must have a plan. Doesn't matter if the plan is good or bad, must have a plan. And then you make up the plan as you go along. So you have a semblance of a plan. And then you move to the next stage of inspiration, which is acting on the plan. Again, like I said, never wait for your plan to be perfect before you move. You have a rough plan, go. Go and then make it up and clean it up as you go along. And that is also a very a source of inspiration. That also helps you inspire yourself to keep on moving. And then, what's the biggest stage of inspiration, or the biggest phase of inspiration, is progress. An individual who sees progress from his decisions and from his plans and from his actions continues being inspired by the results. And that's the biggest source of inspiration. So if you can't have progress if you don't act. You can't act if you don't plan. You can't plan if you don't have a decision to do something. So you gotta start. Don't wait. There is no better time than now, because like I said, what the virus has done is open up a lot of opportunities that were previously not open before. Take us, for example, in the Jungle People. We've been trying to get people to do online learning for the last 10 years. And there's, very little pickup on that, right? Everybody's sort of like, yeah, it's going to be difficult. People like face-to-face. It's more fun if you're face-to-face, and so on and so forth. And I totally understand that. So, because I prefer face-to-face as well. But with this situation, again, boom, open up the opportunities. And we get so many people calling us up and say, can you do online? Can you do online? Can you do online? We became online specialists in less than 2 weeks.
That was great, John. You never thought that would happen, isn't it? Not yet, at least.
Not yet. So we had plans for it. And we knew that it was going to happen sooner or later. But this was way sooner than we expected, and way faster. And not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, sometimes it needs a shock to the system
That's
before
right.
we start acting right.
I like the fact that you've got 4 steps to do. So you got to remember to decide what you want to do, plan on, your plan, on your decision, act on it, and then you'll see progress.
Don't
And
wait.
you're right, you're absolutely right. Because what I noticed during this whole COVID season is if you actually decide to do something, especially for all those small businesses, right? Instead of telling yourself, oh, poor me, and
Mm.
just wallowing in pity, and you pick
Or
yourself
wait.
up. Yeah,
Or
or
wait
wait.
and see. Hopefully things will come out right.
Correct. Because I saw so many home bakers and grocery store owners go online and they're
Yeah.
thriving like nobody's business. So
Yeah.
well done to all of you who actually picked up the pieces and did well for yourself during this whole COVID season. But nevertheless,
If you're doing that and you're going online and you're home baking or you're selling stuff and so on and so forth, don't forget the 10 strategy, right? Are you doing that to survive? Are you doing that to grow? Or are you doing that to thrive?
correct.
There's a difference in the mentality and the plans that you have, whether you're doing it for whichever purpose, and they're very different. So if you're doing it to survive, the mentality is very different. The way you act and the way you behave and the plans that you devise are very different versus doing it to grow and then doing it to thrive. Just remember that as you go along.
Definitely. So now we're going to take a short break, but that's for businesses. Now, I want to come back and ask John about individuals who have suffered a loss of income, loss of jobs, as well as, all kinds of reduction during this whole COVID season. It's actually hit quite a number of people. And as much as we may not see it, they are out there. Some of us actually lead normal lives, but we have been hit pretty badly. So what do we do next? So we're going to take a short break. We'll come back with more next after this on AFO Radio.
Let's get it on. We got some food bread made for you. The music. AFO.
AFO.
AFO. AFO. Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go. Let's get it on. We got some food bread made for you. The music. AFO.
AFO.
AFO. AFO. Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go. Let's get it on. We got some food bread made for you. The music. AFO.
AFO.
AFO. AFO. Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go.
20 seconds. Right. Welcome back to AFORadio.com. That was One Direction and Beautiful on AFORadio.com. I am Mag, and with me is John Kam, the CEO of the Jungle People. We're talking about embracing the new normal, especially in the corporate world, and how are we doing this? Now, we've seen some businesses thrive during this whole COVID season when they've picked up the pieces and found their direction. They've moved to it, and it's great to see. I've seen so many people doing that, and it's lovely. So I read a message on our comments section. Comes from Karen. Karen says, I met a guy who owns a bar that had to be shut down during the whole MCO. Now he channeled his energy to running, and he has run for 10 kilometers every day for the past 110 days. And that was the biggest change in his life. He's lost weight and looks 10 years younger now. He didn't plan for this, but he sought the opportunity to optimize the time productively. So like what you said, John, sometimes it's the jolt in life to nudge one to change. Hey, you know what? That guy deserves a clap,
Yeah.
seriously. Brilliant. So he's actually got your 10, 10, 10 there. So there's a whole lot of tens in that whole message, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So Karen, please, send him our congratulatory message. That's amazing. Changes like this is most of the time put off because we got no time. But
And I admire people like that. And when you look at it, earlier on, I was talking about sources of inspiration, right? That you decide and then you plan, and when progress comes in, you act on it, and progress comes in. These are all sources of inspiration. And when a person is inspired, great things happen.
Mhm.
So this is a guy who got a bar shut down and decided, "Yeah, I'm going to run 10 kilometers. But 10 kilometers in a lockdown situation is no joke, right? Where are you
Yes.
going to run? You can't run outside. So I can imagine that this guy must have been running either in the compound of his house or in his house, up and down the stairs and from the kitchen to the living room. So he had a plan for it. And then he didn't just sit down and plan out the route. He actually started running from it.
Mhm.
And I would bet my life that after the first week of him running, he would have seen progress in his step, like Karen pointed out, lost weight, looks 10 years younger. And therefore, this is probably the new normal for him. So good for him. He sort of went through self-inspiration, the whole cycle of self-inspiration. And as he keeps on doing this, he's going to get more and more progress, and therefore keep inspiring himself to keep on doing stuff. So very cool.
Definitely. Now, if you're watching, do share the live session right now so that more people can get inspired by John this afternoon, or learn a thing or two from John in
Learn
how
how
to
to
pick up.
inspire yourself.
Yeah, learn how to pick up the pieces as well. Now, Judy Wong has sent us a message. She says, it may sound easy to just say pick up pieces and do something. In reality, there are people who don't know where or how to start to pick up post MCO because so much has changed. So when does one begin? That's exactly our question right now. So John, how do we pick up the pieces? Where do we begin? What does it encompass? How do we do this?
This is a tough one, right?
Mm.
And there is really no easy answer to this, but it's a pretty simple answer. And a lot of my life philosophy has been like that life is essentially pretty simple. It's really easy. It's not easy, sorry, it's really difficult. It's not easy, but it's pretty simple. So where does one begin? I would say begin exactly where you are right now. There is, remember I said, don't wait until you're in a certain space. Don't wait until you're in a certain financial level. Don't wait until you're in a certain state of mind, and so on and so forth. Don't wait. Begin where you are right now. And wherever you are right now, you decide on one thing that you can do differently. And the keyword here is two keywords. One, decide. Two, differently. Decide on something that you can do differently. And that decision, that act of deciding, doesn't have to have any resources other than you.
Yes.
You don't have to have anything other than your mind. So if you are a person of sound mind, you can make a decision. And like I said, a decision is a source of inspiration that then pushes you to the next stage. So you've got to decide. The problem is deciding to do something different some people are just happy in misery, we're happy wallowing in self-pity.
I agree.
Why me? Why me? Why me? And then when you put that on social media, poor me, poor me, poor me. The problem is social media then comes and tells you, yeah, poor you, poor you, poor you. All your friends come and tell you, poor you, poor you, poor you. And that sort of reinforces the fact for me to go back into my room and say, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. No, 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 no.
It's a very toxic cycle to be
It
in.
is a very toxic cycle. It is a horrible cycle. But here's the good news. The opposite is also true. If you go on your social media and your friends and you tell them, I have decided to do this, you know who your real friends are. Those are the ones who will say, good for you. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do this. We're going to support you. I've decided I'm going to bake bread and sell from my home. And you're going to have people say, yeah, send some my way, and so on and so forth, right? So you gotta start. That's all I'm saying. You gotta start. And as you start, remember the next stage is plan. And when you plan is you plan for all three circumstances. And you work and you act on all three plans concurrently, not one after another. I really have to emphasize that, because a lot of people make the mistake of saying, I'm going to do this when I become like that. I'm going to, if I get this, then I'm going to do that. No, don't wait for when you get there. Plan to get there, right? You train to get there. You plan to get there. And that's the secret of inspiration, action, right? So there is another comment that says, how do you stay motivated if you don't seem to be making progress?
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. There are two potential reasons why an individual doesn't make progress. One, you haven't planned for growth. So you got the first 10 for survival, but you haven't got the next 10, the plan for the next 10 weeks and the plan for the next 10 months. Those two plans are not in place. You've got the plan for survival. You're not going to progress, but you probably will survive for a certain time at least. Okay, so that's one reason why there is no progress. Second reason why there is no progress is probably because you haven't reached 10 weeks yet. So this is a message for all the millennials out there, all the young people. Actually, not so young people also, for everybody.
Here we go. John Kam loves to talk to the millennials. Let's go. Come on. What do you have today?
Okay, so I'm going to take that back, okay? I'm going to take that back. And this is not just for the millennials. This is for everybody, because we're so used to having things happen immediately, having things done fast.
Correct. Instant gratification.
Fast, instant gratification. And the fact of the matter is sometimes progress takes time.
Correct.
I said 10 weeks, remember? The guy who was running 10 kilometers, he ran for the last 110 days and now looks 10 kilos younger. But
10 years younger.
10 years, he looks 10 kilos younger. So if you had measured him after the first week, we're not sure how many kilos lighter he was, how much younger he looked after the first week. True. And if your plan for growing, which was supposed to take 10 weeks, but you expected those growth results in 10 days, that's where the misalignment of expectations come. Right? So a person who's in survival mode, you don't expect them to be looking, woo, yeah, I'm doing so well, and so on and so forth. That's just not realistic, because you're in survival mode.
Correct.
So the growth strategies, one, you've got to have a plan for it. Two, you've also got to give the plan time.
Yeah.
Right? As long as you're acting on it, so the success and progress comes from dedicated and disciplined action that happens over a period of time, and then it becomes compounded, right? It's like interest; it becomes compounded. And from that basis, then progress comes into place. You will see progress.
Okay. Now, Judy says, what happens when things that are planned and you execute them and it goes wrong? And you planned, you took action, but it all went wrong halfway. So What next? How do you manage a situation like this? It's really true, though. Sometimes, as much as you plan, things will never go your way.
No. So I tend to call that life. But there, in a crisis situation, I suppose it's slightly different from business as usual, right? So in a crisis situation, one of our rallying cries, or one of my rallying cries to the team in the last couple of months, especially in the first 3 months, was to fail fast. We
Okay, and
decide,
what's that?
have a plan, act on it. And if you fail fast. You find out whether it's going to work or whether it's not going to work, and you find out quickly. And once you found out that this is not working, this is failing, move on to another plan. Make another decision, plan again, move, right? So failing fast is really important during times of crisis. If it's not going to work, you want to find out that it's not going to work fast. So remember I said you don't wait for a perfect plan to happen before you execute the plan. And that's one of the reasons why I say you've got to fail fast. Because by the time you execute a perfect plan, it's probably obsolete.
Correct.
So for organizations, and I've been trying to tell my clients this, some have bought in, some haven't, to be honest. Your 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year plan is probably not going to be very useful anymore. Because of the simple fact that we don't even know what's going to happen next month.
Correct.
And
especially this year.
No. So if you look at the stock market, right, by every logical reason, the stock market should be down. It should be crashing. It shouldn't be in a good shape. But it's people making money from the stock market. No horrible reflection of the economy, right?
Correct.
And nobody could have predicted this. And therefore, instead of looking at too far into the future, I would say plan for agility. Plan for a business structure or a personal structure that allows you to shift and pivot quickly, but fail fast.
Okay. All right. Now, John, a lot of people have been suffering in silence. They've lost jobs, they've lost salaries, they've lost benefits. And, being in this situation, you tend to feel lost. You feel dejected. You feel there's no purpose in life anymore. So how do we bounce back from that? Where do we find our purpose?
I'm going to go back to the same thing I said earlier. Decide. Well, okay, so if you're talking about purpose, we've got to understand that a good purpose rarely changes. So just because you're in a crisis, you shouldn't be thinking of changing your purpose, whether as an organization or whether as an individual. And if you feel that your purpose, or if you find that your purpose is no longer relevant, here's the good news. You've discovered that it wasn't a very good purpose. Right? A good purpose doesn't really change that much, whether in times of crisis or whether in good times. A good purpose stays constant. What changes is the mode of delivery of the purpose. How you achieve that purpose, or how that purpose is delivered to the recipients of those purpose. That will change. And you've got to be ready for that change. So if you think of it, then I suppose the best analogy is to think of it as an atom where you have the central nucleus, right? And then you've got all the, what do you call it? Neutrons? No. What do you call it? Kind of electrons. Yeah. So you got the electrons going. Mag, you're really useful, Mag. Thanks a lot. So
I'm not a science person. I'm so sorry.
And that's what we should be. We've got to have a stable core, but at the same time be able to shift how that core reaches its purpose. So purpose doesn't really change. Values don't really change. The mode of delivery probably and very likely will need to change.
All right. So we are down to our final 10 minutes of the show, just reading through our messages on the board. Judy says, we don't even know what next week holds. To be honest, that's very true. Karen says, absolutely powerful by true sense. Fail fast and get up and go again. And Ying Hui says, time flies. Act now, fail, get up, move on next. Fail, get up, move on next. Repeat till we achieve the desired outcome. I think sometimes it's easier said than done, but you've got to push yourself. Eventually you'll get there.
Yeah, so like I
Yeah,
said, it's simple, and I can tell you that you should do it, but it's not going to be easy. And
that's
most
right.
people who are listening to this is going to say, "You talk easy, la, try to do it." See, but that's what separates the movers and the shakers from the rest of the world, right?
Correct.
These are the people who say, "Okay, I've heard this, and I'm gonna act on it." So, well, I do agree with Karen and Yinghui. Act now, fail, get up, move. Don't forget, act now, fail, get up, plan, and then move.
Okay, we skipped one step.
No, must take time, must take stock of your failures. You must take a step back and learn from those failures so that you don't repeat them. So don't
Okay,
become the blindly repeating new things, because well, you could, but then you would have to rely on luck whether or not you succeed, and that's probably not a brilliant business strategy, right?
that's right.
So you try, you fail, you get up, reflect, make another plan, try again, and then
That's
you
right.
rinse and repeat.
Yeah. So Karen says, absolutely what you just said. Failure is temporary, changes to success
Wow,
eventually.
I
Yeah.
like Karen. Karen, she could probably inspire me one day.
Okay, Judy actually has a good point there because I think a lot of us are in that situation as well. Because she says many people that she's come across, they know what they need to do, but they just don't know what they need to do at the same time. So how does she help them do what they know? That's a tough one, isn't it?
Um, so I'm a believer in self empowerment. I'm a I don't think anything can happen unless the individual makes a decision for it to happen. So if you're talking about friends or relatives that are feeling down, they're not really moving, and so on and so forth, I would say just be there for them, encourage them, tell them that things are not going to be over, give them advice, but don't get discouraged if they don't take your advice. Your advice is just that, it's advice. It's up to the person whether or not he or she wants to take that advice, and it may not be the person may not be in the right frame of mind to act on the advice at that point in time, and that's also fair because we're all wired differently, right?
Correct.
But I think if you're talking about friendship, then friendship is about being able to be there when the person is acting or when the person is not acting, and to not give up on the individual, to not say, you know what, you only talk and you never do, and then you walk out on the person's life, but to just constantly be there. I think that's all that we all can do. And I know there are some people who take it personally when their advice is not acted on. I'm gonna say move on.
John,
Uh,
stop being like that.
from a person who's been in personal development for the last 20 years, I've learned that I would never call myself a change agent. What I would do is I would give people opportunities for them to make the change, for them to become the change agents of their own lives.
Hmm.
Because ultimately, it's a personal decision.
Correct. Indeed. Okay, John. So before I let you go, I'm just going to ask you very quick questions, and you give me the first thing that comes to your mind quickly
Oh
as well.
no.
You remember those days. So
I
yeah,
know.
once again, you ready?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Now we've spoken so much about picking up the pieces, about how to make progress, how to, where to go from here on, right? So
Hmm.
one thing to remember if you're a business owner in crisis right now, what do you do?
One thing that a business owner should remember if you're in crisis.
Yeah.
There are so many things that you should remember if you're in crisis.
Pick one, John.
So I'm gonna say what we mentioned earlier. Don't forget your purpose. You started this business for a reason,
Hmm.
uh, and that reason is most likely still applicable.
All right.
But the manner in which you deliver your purpose has probably changed and probably needs to change. So don't get discouraged thinking that your purpose is no longer relevant, because it probably still is.
Mhm.
The question now is whether or not you can think of a different way and possibly a better way of delivering that purpose to the people who need that purpose. So that just remember why you started.
It's so interesting. I only spent like about an hour with you, John. I could actually say the words as you speak. So that's just weird.
That's
Now,
quite funny.
what about individuals who've suffered quite a lot in this past couple of months? What is the one thing they should remember, or how can they motivate themselves?
Suffered a lot. Oh well. Um, and I don't want to make light of anybody's suffering because there have been some tough times for a lot of people out there.
Definitely.
Um, I've got a friend out there who's got a tattoo on her arm, which is a good reminder for me. And the tattoo says, "This too shall pass."
Indeed.
And sometimes I think we need to remember as we struggle in the moment, or as we celebrate in the moment, to not get too far ahead of ourselves, not be too hard on ourselves, because ultimately this too shall pass. And then the question is, I suppose, in terms of what will be left behind when this has passed. What will you choose to have left behind when this whole entire situation has passed? When you look back on this year, this weird Wawasan 2020 year, right? Are you going to look at it as, man, I can't wait to forget it? Or are you going to look at it as this was the
A
moment
lesson.
where we reevaluated, we realigned, we had new plans, we re-strategized, and we went on a totally different direction altogether. So lots of choices that you can make. But if you've struggled out there, or if you've lost a loved one because of the virus or whatever situation, then our prayers are with you. But it will pass. Hang in there.
Indeed. And your final words for everyone who's watching right now. I mean, your piece of advice at least.
Don't wait. Inspire yourself. There are tons of opportunities out there. And if you're feeling down, and you're not exactly feeling inspired, then make the decisions, do something about it. And ultimately, I think, go back to your purpose. And as you go back to the reason why you started, I'm going to end with also asking you to think about how you want to end.
Okay.
So remember how you started, but then think of and plan how you want to end. And here we're talking about legacy, right? We're talking about the legacy that you want to leave behind. Like I said, even if it's for the year 2020, for you to be able to remember what was your legacy in the year 2020, make a difference to the people around you. Don't wait. You don't have to have $1 million to make a difference for you. We had a challenge, and I'm going to put a shameless plug in here. We had a challenge in our company, and we said the Why Not challenge. And one of the premise was that this is a great time to do something nice and to do something good for somebody. So if you got $50 out there, there's somebody out there who needs that $50. Go out and do something nice. You'll be surprised at how much that can motivate you when you do something like that to help empower somebody else.
Definitely. Now, John, it has been a pleasure having you back on the show again. It's always very insightful. I love talking to you because you inspire me. So thank you. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with John, how can they get in touch with you, John?
Well, check out our Facebook at The Jungle People, DJUNGLEPEOPLE.com, or you can add me on my Facebook. That's John Kam, Facebook.
Fantastic. Till we meet again, John Kam, it has been wonderful having you on the show. You take care. Good luck for the rest of 2020. Woo! And let's rock and roll, whatever happens.
We will, Meg. I'll catch up with you sometime soon. You take care now. God bless.
You take care too. And thank you so much for all your messages and viewing. Don't forget to share this live broadcast. It'll be on Facebook forever for you to watch as well. Till then, have a great Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.